Hello everyone, this is Chinmay from Make Auto Clinic. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss about how to change the or how to replace the clutch cable of the old Bullet. Now this particular breed what I'm talking about is when the company launched the 5-speed gearbox. This particular has got a different clutch cable, and you have to understand all those things which are very important when you are changing the clutch cable. In older motorcycles which was standard engine, those motorcycles were having 4-speed gearbox, so the clutch cable replacement was very much easy. But in this vehicle, when they launched the product, the initial design was quite different, but they never launched it. So they gave the design such a way which was little bit critical. And in this case also, there were total two to three different cables when they launched the product. So first cable which came in the market with the bike from the company side was different than the later on. So today we are going to discuss about all those things in detail, so you guys will never have any kind of a problem when you get stuck upon the road. But yes, definitely you will have to do it properly when you have the tools with you, because that is the essential part of the workout. Now, when we are discussing about the 5-speed gearbox, then of course you have to have proper tools. That means you will have to have long nose plier, then the 18 number ring spanner and 10 mm box spanner or the socket, and one screwdriver as well. This gearbox, when company basically launched, then it was a quite new box and the design was quite different. Newer generation bikes has got very different clutch cable system, and so the replacement is very much easy. So it's very doable job even on the road. So even if you get stuck up on the road, even if it is a remote place or something, then definitely it's very easy. But in this box, it was a quite difficult task, especially when you are on the tour. If you don't have any kind of a tools, and but at least if you know how to replace the cable, then you can at least guide one of the local mechanic how to do that. The replacement is you have to carry out with the original spare part, just in case if you don't get it, then of course the alternative is quite different that I will be posting around later on. So this is the 5-speed gearbox what you see. So first of all, when you want to replace the clutch cable, remember you have to find out the broken end, because none of the end should be, or the bottom end of the cable should not be inside the gearbox, otherwise it may get stuck up inside the gears. So best is to find out by opening the 18 mm plug. So guys, these are the two cables which was introduced by the company. The upper one what you see was the first one, and the lower one what you see, this has got a different end. So the molding was quite different. The upper end what you see was very easy to replace when they launched the product. The lower end was little bit difficult. I'll just try to show you by zooming in. I hope you guys can see that properly. The upper end has got a different shape what you can see. So the fulcrum or the clutch assembly or the clutch operating system was quite different. It was like a question mark. Now the reason behind stopping that product, because the end this upper end used to get break very easily, and it used to get fall down inside the gearbox. And the complaint was that the gearbox seizure. So because of that, to avoid the gearbox issue, they gave different clutch operating assembly for the 5-speed gearbox. The early design, the proposed design was quite different than what you see in the 5-speed gearbox. This was the only task which was very critical. If you don't know, then of course way critical. So to avoid all the problems, this is the video which is going to guide you how to replace it very easily. The upper end what I am showing you has got a different assembly system, the clutch operating system, but this motorcycle has got a newer type of clutch operating assembly. So when you are replacing the cable, You have to find out both the end of the wire to remove and replace with the new wire. Keep the adjustments at a zero level, the top end and so the bottom end of the cable. And then you have to install the cable. For that, you will have to keep the kick downside. You will have to remove the 5-speed gearbox logo and the 18 mm plug. For this, you will be requiring tools. Of course, proper tools are important. So let's start with the replacement. For this, as I said, you will have to bend down the kick, lock up the kick with the silencer so it won't come up. So you will be having enough access to replace the clutch cable. This is the way you have to keep it down, but make sure your vehicle is cold, dead cold. If it is hot, then the kick rubber may get damaged. Open the plug by using 18 mm ring spanner, or you can also use socket, but of course on the road it is not possible, so best is to use ring spanner. After opening that, you will be seeing the cable. Make sure the vehicle is on side stand, not on the main stand, so the oil will not ooze out of the gearbox, so you will not lose anything. So best is to keep it on the side stand. Also, it's very much easy to see the cable end if you keep it on the side stand. To open up the 5-speed logo or the emblem, you will have to use Allen key because it has got a countersunk Allen key bolt. These are in SS. Use proper tools so it won't get damaged. Otherwise, generally, because of the deposition, the SS bolts get damaged. Not because of the SS, but because of the aluminum alloy of the gearbox material. After removal of the 5-speed logo, you will be seeing clutch adjuster rod. Accessibility is very much important in 5-speed gearbox because as you see the cable is going inside the gearbox such a way that the area what you see is very cozy. You have to keep the adjuster at a zero level even at the bottom side, so you can remove the cable very much easily from the clutch operating assembly. This system is quite different. I'll be showing you later on how does it basically operate, but of course right now we are concentrating on how to repair or remove the clutch cable or replace the clutch cable from 5-speed gearbox. It's very difficult, I do understand. That's the reason I'm saying that you have to keep all the tools properly with you when you are on the road, when you are on the road basically. At the time of tour it's very difficult to procure any tools if you don't have. So this what you see is a clutch operating assembly which has got one small lock to avoid the broken piece which generally gets into the gearbox. So if the lock is not there, then there is a problem. Lock has to be there. You have to remove the lock. You have to basically unlock, as you can see in zoom. You have to unlock that thing which will which will give you the access to remove the clutch cable properly. I'll try my level best to show you. Now this is the end, or this is the lower end of the clutch cable. The lock is basically from the top end of the, or from the front side of the end. So if it breaks, then the lock will never fall down inside the gearbox, and the lock will hold the end till you remove the broken end from the clutch operating assembly. So for this, first you have to remove the lock, or you have to open up, or you have to unlock the clutch end. It's very difficult in this case. The second generation, this is the second generation assembly, basically fulcrum assembly. The first generation assembly was one of the best assembly what I feel, but the huge problem with the assembly was that just in case if the lower end falls inside the gearbox, then the disaster. So you have to be very careful. Also, when you are handling this nose plier, you have to be careful with the threads because the plug or the case has got a thread over there. So once you unlock the head, then you are accessible, very much accessible to remove the clutch cable. The clutch cable will come down from the notch. This is the loose part of the very much loose part of the clutch operating system. The older assembly was just like a question mark, or you can say a hook. It was a very simple design which was done by the company. Earlier, the first design was different. The first design was on the top of the cover. So the clutch cable supposed to fit from the outside, not inside the gearbox. So there was a fulcrum which they wanted to implement or fix or engineer inside the gearbox. But unfortunately, it never came in the market. Whatever the assembly came from the company's side was the hook type clutch operating assembly, and later on this was the assembly which they um, implement in the 5-speed gearbox. So once you unhook the head, then you are accessible to remove the cable from the clutch operating assembly. The cable will come down, but for that, first of all, you have to push the cable towards the fulcrum assembly, and then you have to remove from the bottom side. It's very difficult, and of course it is not possible to remove the cable when you are on the, I mean, you cannot remove the cover of that gearbox when you are on the tour or on the road. You have to bend out the lock. I don't know how much I can show you. I'll try my level best to zoom it, but it's very difficult because it's a very cozy area and quite a dark area over there. Now the cable is out of the clutch assembly or the clutch operating assembly. Now in this case you can remove the whole adjuster from the cover. Since we are replacing the cover, the cable, so we will be having this adjuster in the new cable as well. This comes as a assembly, not as a separate spare part. We are replacing the clutch cable just because that it's old cable, and we don't want to take any chance on the road since the vehicle is gonna be on the road for longer period. The routing of the clutch cable has to be according to the company because the length is fixed. It's not variable. So it has to go from under the under the tank first of all, and then behind the resonator box. And then you have to get the cable out again from the chassis, which will be going inside the gearbox easily. Now I have to put the adjuster again back to the new adjuster back to the cover, thread it fully, and make it or keep it 0 at this moment and stage, since we need some slackness of the cable. So basically we need to keep adjuster 0, the upper and the lower adjuster 0, because we need the proper slackness. If it is broken, then of course you don't have to worry about that thing. Same way you have to tuck in the clutch operating assembly in the cable from the bottom side. The end of that cable is just like T if you look at the cross section. So as you can see, this is the clutch operating assembly. Again you have to put the cable inside the operating assembly, and then you have to lock the head, so nothing will happen just in case if it breaks in the operation. You have to be careful. pull the cable out or inside the gearbox properly. As you saw, it just went inside without any problem, and then pull the cable little bit and give some tension so the cable will not come out of the assembly, and bend the lock so it will lock the head, and make sure it's bent properly. After completion of the job, then you can adjust. Let's see, it's completely locked properly. Now it won't come out. Now after this, you just have to adjust the adjuster of the cable from the bottom side as well as from the top side. But if you need to do the clutch rod adjustment, then of course again you will have to keep this adjusters at a zero level, or at a 0 point, which will give you proper adjustment at the clutch rod. For this, you will be requiring open end spanner only. Don't use any ring or something. 10 mm and 12 mm is very much important over here. Once you set the cable end, then you can check out the free play of the clutch lever prop. And if you feel there is still need of the free play, then you can adjust it from the top. The free play in bullet is generally little bit tighter side. You'll hardly see 1 mm or 2 mm. Generally you need at least 5 mm, but here or in any bullet you cannot or you should not go more than 1 or 2 mm, otherwise the gears, you will feel hard gearing. Now since we have locked the cable, as I have showed you, I have demonstrated how to lock up the or how to replace the cable. Now it's high time to show you how to adjust the clutch rod as well, because that is very much essential. If you don't give preload on the clutch rod, then you will be having tough time with the clutch cable. All the time you will be feeling that clutch is not proper. If you over tight the clutch rod, then lot of drag you will be like feeling like rpm is high and kilometer, I mean the speed wise vehicle is very slow. Or if it is in tight condition, if it is in loose condition, then you won't be able to engage the gear properly. The gear may jump or the vehicle may jump whenever you are switching to first gear. The hard gearing you will be feeling. So the clutch cable adjustment is very much important, which is responsible for hard gearing and vehicle drag. Now while setting up the clutch rod, you have to make sure that the clutch wire adjuster is at a zero level, both the lower end and the upper end. There should not be an adjustment, because you will be getting wrong feedback from the clutch operating system or the assembly when you are tightening the clutch rod. For tightening or loosening the clutch rod or for adjustment purpose, you will be requiring one screwdriver and 10 mm socket. You have to make it loose. You have to lose these 10 mm socket nut. After that, you have to feel the gap in between clutch rod and the adjuster. The gap is very much approximate, since here you cannot put the feeler gauge inside the, as I rotate, the clutch operating system goes back and forth. Now how much gap is important? The preloading gap is, as you can see, the assembly is touching the clutch rod inside. You have to keep the distance in between clutch rod and the adjuster is approximately thickness of your fingernail. So you have to put the finger inside the assembly or inside the cover to feel the gap in between the clutch rod and the clutch adjuster. Once you get the proper gap, then you can tighten the 10 mm again. Make sure you keep some gap. If you touch the adjuster to the clutch, rod, then you may feel drag. This is the way you have to put the finger inside the cover. So once you keep the nail in between both the rods, then you can tight the 10 mm nut, and you can secure the adjuster properly so it won't change its setting. It's very simple. The only thing is what you have to understand. So the nail thickness is very much important. Once you're done with the adjustment, then again you can put the or you can adjust the lower adjuster of the clutch cable and so the upper adjuster of the clutch cable to keep the free play proper. These things are very much important because the detail work is important in older bikes. The newer by generation bikes require very different what you can say the attention, but in older bikes it was very different. That's the reason that older mechanics are completely different than the new mechanics. Now you have to retight the adjuster. You have to adjust the lower end again and you have to lock or you have to chuck the nut so it won't get loose because of the vibration. The 12 mm chuck nut is very much important. Put the boot on the cover adjuster or the on the adjuster. Adjust the upper end as well just in case if you require, and check out the free play. Don't keep too much of free play, otherwise you will be having problem. So this is the way you have to complete the job, and later on you have to close the gear cover or gearbox cover. Here you'll again require 18 mm ring spanner to fix the plug. From this hole you can pour oil, or the upper hole what you see where the adjuster is there, opposite to that another hole is there. From that hole you can pour the gearbox oil. Here you need 500 ml gearbox oil, and the grade is EP90. When you are working on the bike or when you are replacing the clutch cable, keep the vehicle on the side stand for better visual. Close the window by putting the emblem or the logo. Use Allen key over here. Once you're done with it, then you can check out the vehicle for any drag or for any engagement issue. So thanks for watching and have a great day.